I'll have Rick be your driver. He'll make sure you guys get the job done too," says Juan. Saul and the other three stand outside of Juan's house overlooking the Pacific Coast Highway. "Alright, well, this sucks. But unless we do this, there's no way we're handling Derek and whoever he's working for." Steve thinks about one of his all-time favorite movies, The Three Amigos, and wonders about what they would do in this situation. Juan, becoming the arrogant mob boss that he is, didn't leave any room for options. After an hour of convincing Robert and Bozo to put on the outfits for Pop Quiz, they head on over to the local Starbucks to write up the catchy song. Saul whips out his British English to Spanglish dictionary and they get started. After 3 hours of lying about Juan's greatness combined with their knowledge of the battle that wiped out an estate in Malibu, they had a song ready to sway the mayor. Rick drives them to the mayor's residence. Within a few minutes they arrive at City Hall located right off Route 1. Saul goes up to the secretary and says, "Hello gorgeous, might the venerable Mayor Pop Quiz be in today? Normally I'd call him personally before and tell him we're coming, but I decided to do a little drop-in. He loves when we come and perform a little show for him." She looks at him and the others, freaking out a bit when she sees Rick before addressing Saul. "Hello Mr. McCrusty, I presume. I'm sorry to tell you, but you just missed him. He's en route to the Laker game tonight at the Staples Center. Probably there already. Floor seats." The four hightail it out of the City Hall and jump in the decked-out Hummer stretch. "Alright Rick, gun it. We gotta make it there before halftime." The stretch weaves in and out of crazy LA traffic. Everyone is holding on to dear life. "Geez Rick. Try to get us there in one piece please. I'd rather us not end up being part of the freeway." Saul screams. Eventually and miraculously they make it to the Staples Center without any vehicular homicide. They get out, puke on the side of the road and run toward the arena. They knock on the ticket door. The person on the inside sees them dressed up and lets them in. He says, "Hey, you must be the cleaning crew. Almost didn't recognize you from close up. Equipment room is in the back. Be careful though. The halftime entertainment is near there, so try to avoid interrupting their rehearsal and tying them up." Jock jams blasts throughout the arena signaling that the halftime show was about to begin. Mayor Pop Quiz sat floorside near some Hollywood elite like Cho the Great Chinese actor and Will Smith. They're all awaiting the halftime show of the latest crazy EDM dance group. Smoke and streamers appear, and as the smoke begins to disappear, foreshadows begin to take shape. Instead of the expected computer-made music, the sound of Latin flavor mariachi fills the arena as Saul, Robert, Bozo and Steve jam out to a stunned crowd. The lyrics are all about the strength of Mexico and the many wonderful things it's brought to America, including certain Mexicans' ability to stop organized crime. Bozo has a Michael J. Fox Back to the Future moment where he plays unnecessarily hard, which causes an awkward silence but is quickly followed by an erupting crowd who clearly digs it. The mayor gets on his feet glorious fan style and really embraces his roots. Then all of a sudden Rick runs out with Murica to add his touch, which causes an uproar of panic since no one knew what the hell he was and everyone ran out. The mayor is escorted out but is still so enthralled with their performance that he tells the guys to come with him back to his house. They make it safely out the crazy scene as Rick gets shot with about 20 tranquilizer bullets. As the gang piles into the mayor's limo, along with his 2 bodyguards and driver, they see the limo they arrived in getting impounded by a tow truck. Saul was worried about how Juan would react to Rick being taken away, but then realized Rick probably does this shit often. They also see the performers that would have been in their place, now free of rope, looking very confused and being questioned by police. They got out of there just in time. The mayor pulls out some drinks from a cooler under the seat, which the 4 of them don't hesitate to gulp down. The ride is thousands of times more pleasant than getting to the game. At the Casa de Mayo, they are escorted to the bar on the second-floor porch of the gleaming Mediterranean-style estate. The mayor reveals that he's been under a lot of stress lately, and their music reminded him of his college days when he was known as the Ray Del Fiesta. The mayor opens up some peach schnapps as he says this. He had some of the booze in the car already, so at this point he was already on the tipsy end. It was clear he was ready to let loose with his new friends. Maybe you've had enough, Mr. Mayor. State officials shouldn't be behaving this way. Believe me, when the public learned about any sort of mischief I got into, it made headlines on all the tabloids. People were even ready to blackmail me to keep certain secrets. Saul stopped mid-sentence. Steve, Robert, and Saul all looked at each other and nodded. Bozo, however, was busy drinking directly from a beer tap. Nonsense, my friends. There's no press around here, responded the mayor. He finishes his drink and turns up some music similar to what they played at the basketball game. Some of the mayor's close friends drop in. Everyone seems to be having a good time as the porch turns into a wild dance floor. As Bozo and the mayor get progressively more shit-faced, the other three make sure not to drink too much. Suddenly Mayor Popquiz put a lampshade on his head and started making cow noises. That prompted Rob to whip out his phone and start filming. The mayor continues to make an ass of himself, stumbling around due to lack of vision and self-awareness. Everyone's laughing up a storm as the mayor gets closer to the porch where a gargoyle is hanging off of. In his still drunken state he begins to climb the gargoyle and stand on it, jumping up and down, screaming festive Spanish words. Suddenly the gargoyle begins cracking and he starts falling off the porch. The mayor was about to lose his grip when Rob and Steve grabbed his hand to pull him up. Once safely on the porch, the mayor thanked them despite being in drunken stupor. After that the party died down and people began to leave. The next morning, the mayor awoke on his living room sofa. He groaned from his huge hangover. Bozo could be heard groaning too, although that was coming from the bathroom. Rob slapped the mayor a couple times to sober him up. Saul kicked some beer bottles strewn across the floor out of the way and pulled up a chair to sit on it backwards, interrogation style. Did you have a good time last night, Mayor Popquiz? You can certainly down the tequila like the best of them. The mayor didn't respond, he rubbed his temples from the headache. You gave us quite a scare as well. You tried to fly last night. That would have been bad for us too. The mayor vaguely remembered thinking he was a cow jumping over the moon. He sensed what was going on. These men wanted something from him. What do you want? Are you drug cartels? Thieves? I won't let you have any money. This house was paid for by taxes anyway. Saul spoke up. Whoa, all we want is a little political favor. And in return, we won't let last night's adventure go public. Rob brandished his phone photos in the mayor's face. What kind of favor? He said, gritting his teeth. The guy that we sang the song about at the Staples Center. We want you to grant municipal immunity to his illegal stay in the country. They gave John Lennon and Yoko a pass to stay in the country. So, work something out and your public image is safe, said Saul. The mayor throws a half-empty beer bottle at the wall in anger. That's the last time I do peach schnapps. I should have learned from last time. He screams. All right, it just so happens I have some pull with the governor who's voting whether to repeal that crazy Stop Organized Crime and Live Tax-Free law. I'll make him keep it enforced with my own piece of blackmail on him, and after that you will destroy all evidence of last night happening. Comprehend? Saul nods. Sounds like a fair deal. Once we hear the law stands, it'll be like this never happened. They retrieve Bozo from the bathtub and leave the mayor's house. How the hell are we going to get back to Arns? I don't think you bar drivers can drive to this area, says Steve. I think I know a guy who lives in this area. Let me see if he's around. If not, I've got another idea. But you guys probably won't like it, says Robert. Robert Slant proceeds to dial up his associate or possible relative from his phone with the blackmail photos. After exchanging some greetings, he yells, "What do you mean you sold the Prius? You got tired of being called a girl? Well, can you pick us up in whatever you have now? Okay, great." He turns to the group. "My cousin Rick Curve lives nearby. He said he'll give us a lift. Not sure what he's driving right now though. He's our best bet at getting to Wuhan, settling our deal, and to the airport on time to make our flight today back to New York." A few minutes later, the roar of an engine is heard as a man drives up to the group with a ridiculous-looking motorcycle with an elongated seat and an unnecessarily large companion cart. He honks the horn at the group. "Hey the gang. Your chariot has arrived," says the man. "Hey Rick. Guys, this is my cousin Rick Curve. Rick, did you seriously trade in the Prius for this?" says Rob. "Yeah man, I've always been a hog rider at heart. This one's extra special because they only sold like 5 of them. Alright, well whatever, it's better than nothing. Let's get a move on. We're short on time and we got to get all the way back to Santa Monica," says Saul. They all hop on the bike somewhat awkwardly and Rick guns the engine. The bike moves through the hills making stiff turns. The guys all hang on for dear life as Rick seems to jam to music no one else hears. The group goes speeding through Mulholland Drive, passing by huge hillside mansions. Steve gets his phone out and starts taking pictures of the view. Rick hits a bump and the phone goes flying, prompting Steve to curse life. The bike eventually veers off course and onto the Runyon Canyon Road, shocking dozens of hikers who begin diving for their lives. "Where the fuck are you going, you nutjob?" screams Saul. "Who taught you to drive? Caitlyn Jenner?" A crude joke, but Saul was known to make them. Suddenly one of the tires begins to tear, causing the whole bike to start screeching to the edge. Rick slams the brakes and turns the wheel, causing a dramatic spin move that ends with the bike leaning off the side of a cliff. The group hops out just as the bike falls down and crashes on the ground below, Wile E. Coyote style. The group all laid out sprawled near the edge of the cliff, catching their breath trying to get over their near-death experience. Suddenly a voice calls out, "Now I fear say, that was quite a parking job." They all look up and see a tall man who just had to be John Cleese. "John Cleese? What are you doing out here?" said Saul. "Are you looking for recruits? To fight a serial killer and his crew as well?" The man that almost certainly looked like John Cleese retorted sharply, "I'm not John Cleese. My name is Nigel Brown. I used to be a high-ranking member of an infamous gang, who supervised the gauntlet for new recruits. But that has since disbanded. Now I run a pet shop for a living. We have bad luck with selling parrots though. Wait a second, are you Saul McCrusty, Steve Farble, Robert Slant, Bozo, and some ragged-looking hippie?" "Yes, that's correct," said Bozo, who hasn't said anything for what seemed like months. "It's Rick," said Rick indignantly, "Rick Curve, and I'm an herbal pharmacist." Nigel looked suspicious. "How would the 4 of you travel cross-country without a single person being alerted? What could possibly draw music stars of your fame to take the time to go on a trip together?" Saul chimed in. "We have doubles standing in for us until we get back. You'd be surprised how many people look like celebrities." Nigel didn't look surprised. Saul continued, "There's a murderer that's targeting musicians and it's up to us to join forces to put a stop to his rampage. Now if you could give us a lift or directions." Nigel snapped back, "Where's the police in all of this? Why the bloody hell are you for after this guy?" Robert responded, "The police gave up on this guy years ago. In fact, we have reason to believe he controls most of the police that should be after him. And actually, there are 20 of us in total. Now about those directions." "What do you mean gave up? How many people has he killed?" said Nigel. Steve taps his gold watch and motions for them to leave. "Every popular musician in the past 25 years," said Rob. "That opens up so many more questions, like how their deaths were covered up. Nigel's voice faded as the group started walking to the sound of traffic in the distance in hopes of finding a method of transport. "We have to be going now," yelled Steve. Nigel's voice continues to fade as the group walk back towards the main road. "Damn, that guy was persistent. What a close one," says Steve. "Yeah, he was asking way too many questions he didn't want to know the answers to," responded Saul. Rick Curve meanwhile is quietly sobbing, thinking about the loss of his rare and precious motorcycle that may have possibly crushed someone down below. "Excuse me, gentlemen, I have another question for you." They hear Nigel yelling, approaching them. "Oh, shit, we gotta get out of here," says Bozo. Suddenly the sound of a car horn playing "I Wish I Was in Dixie" is heard, and a big transport truck with a sign labeled West LA Animal Control drives by and stops. The driver door opens and a giant creature steps out. "Holy shit, it's the other Rick," says Robert. Rick the Yeti, with tranquilizer bullets still sticking out his neck with rope dangling from his arms, motions to them to hop in the truck. Despite better judgment, they all crowd into the back of the truck and allow the drugged-up Yeti to hightail them out of the hills and back onto the freeway. The truck flies into Santa Monica Boulevard. Everyone is bouncing around in the back, trying not to hit their heads against the wall. Saul crawls into the front passenger seat. "If I didn't know better, I'd think you were trying to kill us back the man," says Saul. "Me sorry, sir. Try to get you all to Mr. Wan fast. He not a fan of waiting." "That's fine as long as we get there alive. How did you escape the animal control people and steal their truck anyway?" "Oh, I just wake up strapped down in cage. Straps not meant for giant Yeti, so I rip them off and bust out of cage and throw men out of nearby truck. Mr. Wan said you all would be by Mr. Mere house, so I start driving there and see you." The truck flies through a red light, causing two cars to smack into each other. Sirens begin blasting behind them and a police chase ensues. Rick ignores them and flies down the boulevard. They arrive at Wan's house with a whole fleet of cops. They announce on the horn, "Come out with your hands up." The group of musicians stay in the truck, afraid to show their faces. Rick decides to take one for the team, since it was really all his fault anyway, and surrender by getting out of the truck. "No shoot. Me surrender." The cops are taken aback at the large Yeti emerging from the truck and call for backup. Wan opens the door and comes outside. "What the hell is going on out here? I'm in the middle of doing hot yoga." "Rick, geez, you look like shit. Why are you out here surrendering to police?" says Wan. "Sir, step away from the scene. This creature is under arrest for a lot of shit. We're just waiting for the chiefs to arrive," says the one loud cop. Wan smiles. "Okay, very well." Suddenly a large police truck arrives recklessly at the scene. Two cops with cool dark sunglasses get out. "All right, what's going on here?" says the one. His nostrils start to flare. "Rick, is that you? I knew this address sounded familiar." "All right boys, clear out, nothing to see here. Let Chief Adamding and I handle this." Chief Adamding steps out of the car and proceeds to walk toward the street. Wan, dripping sweat, steps outside with a bathrobe tied around his waist like an arrogant douche. He grabs Chief Dongsi and casually walks over to stop Adamding from walking into an oncoming car. Wan leisurely wraps his arms around both of them. While Rick the Yeti watches his boss get humorously nostalgic with the chiefs, the group is still in the animal control car, wanting to know what on earth was going on. Wan shoves some white powder from a bag into the officer's pockets from his own pocket as soon as the other cops were gone. He fist bumps both of them as they slide back into their car. Still laughing from Wan's jokes, they drive away aimlessly with his mailbox still stuck in the grill. Wan looks at the animal control van parked on his lawn. He then looks at Yeti Rick. "Rick, my friend in indentured servitude, if you don't behave yourself, it's back to their zoo with you." I didn't care if they booted you out after you fought that bear. Rick grunted. Bear was asshole. He wants Trump to win. Me think he knew me parents illegal immigrant Yeti. Juan put his hand on Rick's shoulder. Well, you're in good company, pal, but sometimes you need to play nice with your asshole neighbors. Juan turns to the gang that were now outside the truck. He clasps his hands. So, I hope you all have some good news for me. I never miss hot yoga sessions with my mamacitas. He looks up to see an attractive woman looking out his window. He gestures at her as if to tell her to stay put. Saul speaks up. We have exactly the news you want to hear, Juan. The mayor agreed to make arrangements that would make you immune to being deported. Sometime this week you'll see that the legislation has changed in your favor. Juan looked surprisingly impressed. Good. As soon as that happens, I will send 20 of my capable yet disposable men as well as plenty of weapons to aid you in bringing the offensive to your enemy. Now let's get you guys back over to the East Coast to kick some ass. The private jet that I scheduled to pick you up in is arriving shortly. My brother Ray likes to use it to get around as well. Rick, why don't you drive them to the airport? The group of 4 screamed no. At the same time. So, Juan called a reliable Uber for them to get to the airport and gave a girl a spike to Rick curve for him to get home. Rick looked pissed, but he wasn't about to mess with Juan the mob boss. So, Rick begrudgingly pedaled home on his new pink girl's bike with tassels. He wished he still had his Prius. The group got to the private plane on schedule, then flew off to NYC to regroup with the others. They recounted their adventures with more booze, and Bozo logged the events into his secret diary. Saul was already reporting his success to the others and receiving several interesting emails from the group that was in charge of intel gathering for Derek's activities. Back in the Big Apple, some big changes are happening in Central Park as the preparations for the big mysterious upcoming concert are underway. Giant barriers line the sides of the large grassy area, blocking people from seeing the stages being built. People are abuzz with what the hell could be happening. Further uptown in the high-rise penthouse of Willie Mole, the group finished finalizing their set lists and their parts of the plan. Chad turns the changeable background to the beach, feeling intense cabin fever. It feels like we've been here for months. When are we gonna regroup with the rest of the guys and put together the whole set list and plan to get this guy? As soon as the guys get back from the West Coast, we'll move on to phase 2. We have to head down to the park and make sure everything is in place. But first I'll call Nick and see if his crew were able to find where Derek's compound was. Says Willie M. Back at the fallout shelter, using the enhanced radar technology afforded to them by the ringleader, the team of Nick Swagger, Dom Letty, David B. Loth and Clash work round the clock to try and track the whereabouts of Derek and his operations. The best way in stopping him was knowing who he was, thought Nick. Thankfully their suspicions proved true and their tracking S led them to the location. After sending Saul the intel of what they gathered, he took the team down to the weapons locker to prepare for their drive over to Derek's base. Suit up, boys. I'm not sure what we're up against here. There's no way he's in this alone. As powerful of a force he may be. Nick tells them. Suddenly he gets a call from his burner phone, of which only 2 others know the number to. Willie, you've got great timing. I was just about to tell you and the boys we might be taking care of Derek earlier than expected. Swing on by with the chopper. We're heading to Queens. William hung up the phone. Well guys, it looks like our friends back at the tower may have found the shithead. Let's take the chopper over there and pick them up. Seriously? Wow, this is it? After all these years? Says Chad. The 4 of them finally leave the fancy penthouse and fly the chopper back to the top of Trump Tower where the other 4 are waiting. They hop inside the chopper. So where in Queens are we heading? Asks Willie M. Right outside JFK. We'll park the chopper there and head over by car. I have a driver waiting for us. You're going to want to take these weapons too. Chad watched Nick Swagger open a chest full of handguns and semi-automatics. The 7 of them proceeded to inspect their weapon of choice like a pro. I guess the pressure of being picked off forced these guys to learn how to defend themselves, thought Chad. Nick glanced at Chad, who was clearly hesitant at using a gun. The only time Chad had used a gun was to shoot blanks during an action movie gun commercial. This was the real deal. Nick walked over to Chad. Look mate, I know the closest you've been to a dangerous situation was when you forgot to use a condom with that prostitute from Bangkok before this tosser forced you into this nutty runaround. But if you're not prepared to shoot someone, then you better stay here. Chad was determined. This guy killed my sister, and he targeted me. I'm going after him with you guys. This could be my only chance to get the slippery bastard. Nick and the others proceeded to give Chad some quick lessons on handling and firing. Stepping out of the chopper back onto the roof, they removed the ammunition because they were on the friggin' roof of a skyscraper in New York City. Chad practiced pointing his respective gun at Domoletti after he popped out from behind the staircase bulkhead, pretending to shoot Chad with his own empty gun. When he thought he was ready, they got on the chopper. Willie Mole was impatiently waiting for them to get a move on and waved for them from the pilot seat to get on the helicopter already. The 8 of them piled in. It was a tight fit. David Beloth had called shotgun obnoxiously, but on the other hand he actually had a shotgun strapped to him. Chili Bridle was forced to sit in Billy Legstrong's lap. They took off to the airport. Their vantage point allowed them a view of the preparations in Central Park in the northern horizon. If this ambush fails, then Plan B would be their only option. They landed on a helipad in the helicopter area at JFK. Then they proceeded to get into a white van with the arranged driver to what looked like a neglected Chinese electronics warehouse in Lindenwood. Nick reviewed his notes. Yep, this is the place, he said. It was night now, and it began to rain. They approached the spooky building, turning on flashlights strapped to their heads. Jinkies, said Chad. Nick addressed the group. All right, looks like there's 2 ways in. You 5 go around back. We'll take this entrance. On my signal of firing off these Chinese fireworks left outside, we'll storm the building and meet up in the center. Everyone but Chad, Nick, Jim and Willie Mole head toward the back. In position, says Domoletti on the walkie-talkie. Nick takes out a lighter and lights the wick of the fireworks. 10 seconds later they explode and both groups break down the doors and storm in, guns in position and ready to fire. Inside they find a big open room with random machines and parts scattered throughout. No traces of Derek or anyone else on the floor. The group of 4 go down a hallway and find a door. Nick does a roundhouse kick to break it open. Stairs appear as they take them down and see a variety of rooms. One of which is an empty shooting range and another containing a very large computer screen with a console turned off. Willie inspects it. There's no dust on the monitor. They must have just left here. The 4 look around the room for anything Derek may have left behind. They saw nothing revealing anything about his presence there. They looked at the other rooms, but they too were bare. This guy must have known we were coming somehow, said Willie. How did you even know this was his hideout, Nick? Derek's been like a ghost all these years, asked Chad. Well, we've been suspecting your friend Gary was working alongside Derek's people for quite some time. Once that incident out in the Hamptons happened, we kept even closer track of him. A few days ago, he came to this location. He never left since that day, so we assume they either killed him or they were including him in their plans. Suddenly some static broke out from the walkie-talkie. Where are you guys? I thought we were meeting in the middle of this place, said David. Shit, I forgot that part of the plan, says Nick. We're downstairs looking around. There's just a computer that looks fried, so we're heading back up towards you. Well, hurry up, I think you'll want to see this. All right, keep your pants on, says Nick. They run upstairs to join the rest of the group. They're all standing around in the center of the room where they were supposed to all meet up, looking at something on the ground. "What's all the commotion over here?" asks Nick. His question is answered as he walks slowly to the huddle and sees the cold, lifeless body of a Justin Bieber look-alike staring at the ceiling. "Geez, what happened here?" asked Chad. "If you didn't know better, I'd say Derek found his next victim here. He must have tried to stop him himself and didn't know what he was getting into," explained Willie Mole. "Oh God, that's horrible. This concert can't come any sooner. I can't wait to get my hands on this bastard," says Chad. "Don't worry, Chad, we will all get what we want soon enough. But for now, this place was clearly deserted, so let's clear out," said Nick. Suddenly Nick's phone makes an annoying noise. It's a text from Saul. "They've landed. Let's pick them up and head back so we can finalize our plans." Willie Mole takes some photos of the corpse to add to the investigation. They carefully review the area to make sure no evidence is left behind to ensure this doesn't become a crime scene. Nick starts a fire near the body with some oily rags added for good measure. They nonchalantly leave the building as smoke begins to pour out. Chad noted that the building was isolated enough for the fire not to spread, or else he would have objected. They meet up with the white van again and drive over to JFK. Saul and his gang arrive shortly after and they take 2 vans to Trump Tower. Willie Mole takes his chopper to his penthouse before arriving later. At Trump Tower and the Starbucks secret entrance, they make sure to go in with hooded jackets and separately to avoid causing a commotion. Once inside, seats were taken at the meeting table in the secret base. Fozzie arrives along with Teddy Fedder, Axel Tulip, and John Floates, completing the group. The room is filled with people trying to talk over each other and cigarette smoke. Willie Mole turns on an air vent to clear the air. Saul rings his glass cup, but no one notices. He continues to ring the cup until it shatters. He grabs an air horn for this occasion and blasts it for a solid 5 seconds. "Okay everyone, we're here today to discuss our hard work for the concert. You all had an important job for the plan. I'll start with my team," said Saul. "In essence, we succeeded. We have enough ammunition and weapons to counter anything that Derek's group may conjure up. We also secured a small platoon of soldiers for hire from my acquaintance Juan's personal collection. They will be arriving tomorrow. We helped grant him semi-legal status into becoming a citizen here in the States. He's a big shot in the criminal world, but without our help he would have had some trouble with the government." Saul turned to Nick. "So, I received some interesting news, but how did your entire investigation turn out?" Nick cleared his throat after taking a swig of rum from the bottle. "My team was in charge of intel gathering on any of Derek's activities as well as his whereabouts. He covered his tracks well, but we could trace his last meeting location. There was communication equipment there after we arrived, possibly how he contacted his associates. Also, we came across someone that we all know that was dealt with." He threw some photos onto the projector so the group could see Bleeder's corpse. "We left no evidence behind and we made sure that Derek won't be using that facility again." "Noted," said Saul. He turned to Fozzie. "How did the setup go for your team? Is the concert venue ready for the event?" Fozzie responded, "Yes, we have all the standard concert gear in place. Lights, smoke machines, amps. We have all of the sniping areas ready to go as well. The tarps are still covering the area so we can keep the area secret from prying eyes until the concert." "Okay, good," said Saul. Finally, Willie Mole's team was in charge of the song roster. Willie Mole smacks John Floates' hand away from the thermostat. "Yes, we compiled some songs that combined our greatest hits into one coherent experience. Chad had some really great ideas. He may make it as big as any one of us once the plan takes care of Derek," said Mole. "I had a lot of fun, but I really want to fucking nail that creepy psychopath," said Chad. Everyone nodded in agreement. Elsewhere, in a currently undisclosed location, we see a gathering of people of all different races and nationalities inside a large room. Above them, separated by glass, is Derek, Gary and a very large man built like a defensive lineman. So, we got very lucky. If we didn't have that tip-off, things would have gotten very ugly much quicker than I hoped. They're clearly tailing us somehow, so it's a matter of time before this location gets made too. Mickey, you sure can we trust this group? Says Derek. The big man responds, yes, I've worked with these guys before. They're as loyal as an unpopular friend. Plus, I ran by their credentials with some very connected friends of mine. Okay, good to know. Time for me to see for myself. Derek exits the glass room and walks downstairs to join the large room. Greetings all. If you're in this room right now, it means you've been deemed worthy of making history. There's a tall task ahead of us. In a couple days your lives will change forever. I can't guarantee that will be a good thing. Before I go on, does anyone have any issue with that? No one answers. Okay, good. Our fearless leader will be here tomorrow. Right now, I need to test you all out and make sure I don't have anything to worry about once shit starts going down. First, we'll hit the shooting range. Let's see who can hit the dime off the dummy's head. 2 miles away. As the recruits take turns with the sniper rifle, Derek looks on observing their abilities. After they finish, he points to 2 of them and tells them they'll be the sniper watch. He tells Mickey to do strength testing with the others while he and Gary go back to the office. All right, Gary, we only have a little time left to get the whole operation in play. This concert could be our last opportunity of saving him. I'm going to make sure we have a capable group here that I trust will execute the boss's plan. I need you to make one more trip for me and make sure you get to them quickly and without letting your presence known. This is very critical. We cut to Central Park, where the large area containing the tarp-covered stage begins to make noise. People begin to gather as a recorded voice calls out over a large speaker, prepare yourselves for the concert of the century. The greatest artists ever gathering in one place right here in exactly 24 hours. Tell everyone you know. Bring grandma. It's free, so you have no excuse. After that nonsense, a tarp piece opens up above to reveal a timer counting down reading 23 hours 59 minutes to go. Meanwhile, in another large auditorium-sized room in the underground base, every member of the Resistance is rehearsing the songs that Willie Mole's team put together. Watching the group's progress from the far side of the room was Saul and Nick. Saul was leaning against the wall, looking at his watch, which had a timer aligned to the concert debut. Nick cleared his throat. Derek probably knows this is a trap. He's caused us trouble since the beginning. He's not about to slip up at this point. Saul responded, yes, you're right. He will show up though. Chad is too important to him. Nick took a long draw from his cigarette. So, it's just a matter of outsmarting him and his associates? We've learned so much watching Chad over the years, and now we might throw it all away. He's here now with us. Think of the incredible ratings we will get. Saul shook his head. Having second thoughts, Nick. As long as Derek has his agenda to target Chad, then we have no choice but to draw him out once and for all. This could be our only chance. Derek will get to Chad eventually. I'm sure you realize this. Nick nodded silently. Suddenly his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. The men from California are arriving at the airport. Everything's going well here. Let's go pick them up so we can brief them on their part of the plan. I'm glad you were successful. We definitely needed some extra gunners to cover the area. Nick, Saul and Willie take the chopper back over to the airport. They head out to the runway where Juan's plane is parked. The door opens and the air unfolds. Out of the plane came around 20 very built, angry-looking Mexican men and one equally scary-looking woman. They all line up next to each other in a straight line, looking like they were military trained. Saul speaks. Welcome to New York, gentlemen and a lady. We got big plans and little time to do them. Come follow us back to the base and we'll fill you all in. Suddenly a huge stretch limo appears. They all crowd in except Willie, who has to fly his chopper back. The limo drives them all back to Trump Tower, where they enter a secret car entrance. The limo takes them to the underground area with the rest of the group. They all get out of the car. Once Willie shows up, Nick begins. All right, now that everyone is here, let's go over the plan, shall we? The important characters gather round a big table with a map of the park, where the stage is, and other relevant locations around there. Nick begins. Okay, to make things easier to understand, let's use these current and former fads to represent ourselves. Saul, you and your crew will be my Pog collection. Willie, you and your crew will be these fidget spinners. Fozzie and his gang will be these Furbies. My crew will be these Tamagotchis, and our Mexican friends will be these Mexican jumping beans. We're gonna put on 4 acts. While one group plays, the rest of us will don these disguises and scout the areas for signs of Derek and his crew. If he's found, send the alert to all our phones and we'll move to strike. This is a smart, sick son of a bitch, so I'm not expecting this to be easy. I'm sure he's expecting us, but this will be his best chance of accomplishing his goal of taking us out and getting to Chad. The gravity of the situation finally starts hitting Chad hard. What is with this guy? Why am I his #1 target? I've been running around in hiding from this guy, but I have no idea why. I feel like I'm trapped in my own little world here. Can someone give me an answer? Chad, it's understandable why you feel this way. Believe me, this is a fucked up situation. None of us can really say what his true intentions are, but he's hit other members of our crew in the past, and the signs are that you're his next target. We'll have you be a part of the final act, so it gives us the most time to find him and protect you. Explains Saul. Yeah, anyway, so here's the set lists we're going to do and the times. We need to close off these parts to help negotiate the crowds easier. We'll have every sniping spot monitored. Spotlights all over. Only thing left to do is lay out the bait. Continues Nick. Chad feels uneasy about this whole plan. He's spent the past week fighting the withdrawals and was really just going in autopilot. Now, with his head mostly clear, anxiety started to build. Alright, let's break for the night and meet up tomorrow morning to begin the final preparations, says Saul to the group. Willie takes his group back to the penthouse. It's a restless night for pretty much everyone. All the groups are mentally preparing, including the Mexican reinforcements. Not so far away, Derek meanwhile eyes the city from a large window. His phone buzzes as he eyes a text from Gary telling him he was successful with the task and will be back tomorrow. Derek turns away to go tell the boss, who had just arrived. Elsewhere in Central Park late at night near the ticking timer, a homeless man observes several characters breaking into the covered stage. He watches as they untie the meeting point of some tarps so a person can slip through. It was impossible to figure out who they were because they were dressed in black with ski masks. Typical burglars, thought the homeless guy, and went back to sleep. They bring some duffel bags stuffed with suspicious equipment through as well. Once inside, the 2 men in black walk across the stage. One of them points to a hatch. They climb under the stage and remove some explosives from the duffel bag. They are secured in place. They set a timer to sync with the countdown timer high above the stage. Then they exit back through the stage trapdoor and walk over to the far side of the lawn area. They dig a hole with some shovels, then load a bunch of weapons into a box. They bury the box, covering with some grass. Silently as when they entered, they exit through the opening between the tarps and tie them back together as if they never entered. The next morning, the concert site is visited once again. This time by the people producing the event. All the musicians walked onto the stage. The 20 bodyguards were instructed to stand in certain areas. Okay everyone, time for the rehearsal that matters the most. Everyone relax, try to remember that the bodyguards will provide additional protection during the concert. Everyone with guitars remember to undo the safety on your guns hidden inside your guitars before the opening, said Saul. Everyone nodded. Half of Fozzie's team, Fozzie and John Floates, climbed up to their high points for sniping. They will be playing in the second act, but for the first act they will be watching for signs of Derek. Nick looked at the timer clock that now read T-10 hours. Picking up his guitar, he began playing some riffs to lead everyone into the opening music. Suddenly, he stopped playing. Everyone else stopped too as they realized it as well. "Where the hell is Chad?" said Nick. He walked in with the rest of us. The group looked around for a bit until they found Chad behind a huge speaker. He was making out with the tough-looking woman that arrived with the bodyguards. "What the fuck, Chad?" yelled Clash. They both looked up. The moment was clearly over. It happened so fast, thought Chad. He resorted to the one tactic that always made him feel better when he was anxious. Besides drugs, fooling around with women. Chad and their woman whose name he never got or cared to know stopped exchanging spit, and Chad joined Willie's group to practice with them what would be the final act of the night. In just a few more hours, the concert would kick off with Fozzie's group warming the crowd up, followed by Nick's crew, Saul's crew, and finally Chad and Willie's group to cap off the night. And at the same time, if everything went to plan, Derek and his crew would be captured or killed. Chad, with his mind cleared of drugs and filled with just lust for all things female, had a feeling that things were not going to go by plan because, well, they never do. Suddenly a noise was getting louder and louder outside. Shouts of people screaming, "Start the show already! Tear down these walls!" There was still roughly 5 hours to go when the timer hit 1, but demand was building and getting unruly. Nick and Saul had everyone gather around again. Nick started, "Okay, so in consideration of the present situation, it looks like we may have to start things earlier than expected. We can't risk a mob scene ruining or exposing our traps, so everyone wraps up their final bits of practice and get ready to start this thing in 1 hour." The crowd continues building around the stage. Several of Derek's people immerse themselves within the crowd, inciting everyone to get louder and unrulier. Some of the crowd attempts to climb the stage to open it up before some Mexican security guards show up and taser them off. Backstage, the groups are scrambling to get everything in order. Fozzie is gargling salt water to get his voice ready for his opening ballad. The ground crew get the smoke machine ready. Jim prepares for his duties as the announcer since he hurt his hands setting up the tarps around the stage. The other 3 groups get ready for Operation Where the Hell is Derek? Back outside, the crowd is silenced by a loud siren as the tarp is slowly lowered off the stage. Attention New York City. Get ready for the greatest concert your lives will ever see. Mexican security guards begin pushing the crowd back from the stage. Smoke then starts shooting out as Team Fozzie takes the stage. The sound of a guitar fills the park as the opening of Iron Man begins. The crowd is cheering. Fozzie, Teddy, Axel and John all take the stage. Smoke is pouring out heavy so it creates almost silhouettes of them. It's difficult to see but the crowd digs it. They play a few Crack Habit songs along with Pearl Spam, Rifles and Tulips and some Stall and Floates to make sure everyone gets that all 4 are contributing. Backstage, the other 3 groups are huddled up. Saul brings out a large suitcase with various clothes and facial products. Okay, no early sign of Derek yet. Nick, your group is going up next. While your set is doing all of the really long Rolling Rocks songs, well, use these disguises and blend among the crowd. Derek almost certainly has some of his people planted out there and we need to lead them out, says Saul. Okay, keep an eye out especially for snipers and crowd members that look pissed, says Nick. Fozzie's crew just trapped up. You guys are up, tells Jim. While Team Nick gets ready to go out, The rest don their disguises and sneak out to join the crowd. Saul tells Chad to stay put until his time to get on stage. He also reminds him to refrain from chasing tail until the plan ends. They pass by Juan's men, who were currently assigned to guard the stage perimeter. The disguises work without a hitch. The group spreads out through the crowd, looking for suspicious individuals. This proves difficult because most of the crowd is full of the wilder citizens of the city. The lighting gets darker and Leaving Home starts up from the group on stage. Meanwhile, Mickey is on the far end of the park, reporting to Derek on a burner phone. Some of our men are already in the crowd, making them wilder. No, I don't think that they will be able to sniff them out. Not the best time or place for picking out suspects, said Mickey loud enough for Derek to hear. If they started early, we are going to have to keep an eye on the bomb. We may have to sneak in there and change the timer, said Derek. I know. You can trust me. We've beaten tougher odds than this before, said Mickey. Well, we can't screw this up. We can end their scheme once and for all today, said Derek. Mickey looked down at the area with their hidden weapons. Hopefully they won't be necessary, but he was ready to lead the recruits if they were. Meanwhile, Chad was sitting backstage feeling anxious. He really wanted to be part of the search, but he knew he had the most vital part of the plan up ahead as a last measure to draw out Derek. Suddenly, his phone rang. He picked it up. Hello. He answered instinctively without thinking. Why you answered? Listen, Chad, it's me, Gary. I have to tell you what's really going on. Chad couldn't believe the balls on his former very good friend. I know what's going on, no thanks to a shit-eating backstabber like you. I've met up with a group of people I trust. People that are in the same boat as me, and we're taking measures to get our lives back. I can't believe you sold me out too. Chad was cut off. Chad, shut the fuck up for a second. Those men that came to the house were on our side. They were my transport backup in case I found you. I need to tell you the truth now in case you get hurt. Chad pauses before hanging up the phone. This was his friend for a long time after all. The people you are with are not who you think they are. Don't you think it's too convenient for all these famous musicians to find you? That no one has questioned where they went? This has been a ruse to get you on their side so you don't question anything. They probably told you that Derek was a murderer. Your life for the past 10 years has been monitored by cameras. Look closely at their faces. There should be surgery markings around the sides. Chad felt a chill down his spine. His life has been a reality show for the past 10 years. He did find it odd how quickly he rose to fame despite his close friends not liking his songs. I wasn't supposed to talk to you before you were taken in, but look, the people you are with are part of the show as well, but they went too deep. Said Gary. Huh? What does that mean? Yelled Chad. He wanted to believe Gary, but his escape from his house was still a painful memory. Shit, I have to go. Whatever happens, lie low, okay? Chad was really agitated now. Lie low for what? As soon as Derek or his underlings get caught, it will be over. Gary hung up. Chad swore up a storm and kicked a chair. He had to be ready for his debut, but now he had so many questions. Chad was at a crossroads. He questioned his trust in everyone. Gary had been his close friend, but that didn't excuse the ambush in the Hamptons where he felt his life was in danger. At the same time, how well did he really know these guys he was with? They were his idols, or at least they looked like them. They certainly had the connections of very powerful people, and yet he was now starting to question his role in this whole situation with this war with Derek he was brought into. Meanwhile, outside among the crowd, the teams split up, doing their best to blend in but also look out for anyone in Derek's crew. Robert Slant, dressed as a village hipster, dances through the crowd. He whispers into his shoulder attached with a tiny microphone. I'm not seeing anyone yet in the southwest section. Going to keep looking. Nick and his team are jamming hard on stage, making it difficult to hear him. Robert walks near a tented area and suddenly gets grabbed from behind and pulled out of sight. Meanwhile, as Derek eyes the concert and looks at his phone synced up with the timer. Only 1 hour until the bomb was going off. We're cutting this close. If they don't act fast, we're going to lose him, he thinks. Just then his phone goes off. He answers it at the first ring. We found one of them. We're going to make him talk. You want to be here for this? Says the voice on the phone. Don't touch a hair until I get there, says Derek. Back at the concert, Nick and his team are finishing up their set. Saul returns backstage and sees only Steve and Bozo. Where the hell is Robert? He asks them. We thought he was with you, replies Bozo. Shit, Saul talks into the microphone. Rob, where are you? Can't you see Nick's finishing up? We're about to go up. There's no reply. Nick and his team start making their way backstage. Saul addresses the group. Okay, Rob is mere, so we're going to have to go up without him. Our new objective is finding him now too. There's a chance Derek's guys got to him. Chad and Willie's group join them. We need to keep Chad here too. We can't risk any more of our guys getting snagged. Saul and his team go out on stage. Chad is growing more uncomfortable the longer he's backstage. He begins thinking about using again, but he remembers his stash is clean. He finds Jim and tells him he needs to discuss something with him in private. 50 minutes remain on the timer.